It was the funniest thing. I'm telling you, I laughed so hard, my ribs were killing me.
Hey guys, my name is James Walsh, and you are listening to the Wrestling Epicenter here on YouTube. I want to thank you for finding us. Please do me a favor and click that subscribe button and the notifications bell. And if you get the chance on this video, click the like button. If you do, it'll turn blue. Check it out. Also, check out WrestlingEpicenter.com for all this great content available in MP3 format, our online store that'll keep us going free and clear, daily news updates, as well as all the information from the history of professional wrestling you could possibly ever want. Check out WrestlingEpicenter.com online right now. Without any delay, let's get to your interview here on the Wrestling Epicenter. Welcome back to the interactive interview right here on WrestlingEpicenter.com, as we're now being joined by a Wrestling Hall of Famer, the one and only Irish Terry Gunn. Irish Terry Gunn. It's good to have you on the show. How you doing?
It's a pleasure to be with you, Jim.
It's great to have you. We've been it's been a long time since I've been calling back to the great state of New Jersey, where I grew up. So great to talk to you.
Well, not a lot has changed out here, that's for sure. The winters are still cold, and the summers are still lukewarm.
How are the property taxes? Have they gone up much?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they have since you've been here.
It was 2000 I moved out, so.
Okay, yeah, they've probably gone up. I would say probably about $1,000 since then.
Oh boy. Yeah, the total we pay out here in Arizona is about somewhere between about $1,000 to $1,400. So that's one of the benefits of living out in the desert. So
this is true. This is true.
All right, so it's great to have you on the show. What are you up to these days? What's going on in your world since the last people might have heard from you?
Well, the last year's been very busy for me. I actually got back into the ring after an absence of 17 years last July, and I wound up winning the heavyweight title down in Pulaski, Tennessee, in the newly formed SPWA territory. And then I wound up losing it to the outlaw Don Bass about 3 weeks later. But what I've been doing personally, other than reliving my youth, is I do a lot of work for the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame in Amsterdam, New York, the only legitimate Hall of Fame in the world. And that seems to be taking up quite a lot of my time. I do a lot of signings and, visits and stuff like that. I throw a dinner myself for the Hall of Fame every September. And, of course, we have the induction ceremonies in May up in Amsterdam.
Absolutely. You mentioned it's the only legitimate Hall of Fame, and obviously now with Vince deciding that he's going to try to, I guess the Hall of Fame is more him making money off of his video library than anything else.
But I can't say anything bad about anybody that tries to push professional wrestling in a positive manner. What Vince has is an organizational Hall of Fame, and since he's got the most elite organization going, I think that it was a very, very intelligent move on his part. The man thinks forward on these things. So, anything that's going to recognize the guys and put them in the forefront of their profession, where they're being recognized for the years that they've put into the business and the professionalism that they've put into the business. I feel very, very positive about whether it's Vince McMahon or the Hall of Fame out in Iowa or our Hall of Fame.
Doesn't Jimmy Valiant run one as well?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I believe he does, because he invited me just a few weeks ago. I just sent him a message out of the blue just saying, "How you doing?" Because I interviewed him a few years ago, and he said, "You got to come down to the Hall of Fame. We got new exhibits and things." So he's still the old Jimmy Valiant.
Well, you know what? He could rock and roll then, and he can rock and roll now.
Absolutely. So you mentioned.
What's your opinion of guys like Bruno Sammartino, who's probably the biggest name that's not in Vince's version of the Hall of Fame now. What do you think of guys like that who opt not to be a part of Vince's version of the Hall of Fame?
Well, my opinion of that is that, you know, wrestling is a business. And just like any other business, sometimes employees have arguments with employers, our partners have arguments amongst themselves, or there's disagreements, or there's just split-ups. And, you know, if something like that goes, you know, there may be some ill feelings, and you know, they don't want to be associated with. You know, I'm not saying that that's definitely the reason for some of these actions, but, you know, it would make sense to me that, you know, the reason that, you know, somebody doesn't want to be in this Hall of Fame. I mean, to me, I'm not inducted into the Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. I'm an invitee into the Hall of Fame. All right, I have a display in there. I've been, you know, I was invited to have a display in there, which is in itself a privilege. Mm. Technically, yes, I'm in the Hall of Fame, but I'm not an inductee into the Hall of Fame. You know,
that's strange. No, did they?
It's an honor just to be asked. You know, and anybody that says that, you know, that's ridiculous. No, it's not. I mean, you know, I was asked by people who, you know, I looked up to, that were, you know, phenoms in the sport, you know, when I was just a child. So, you know, anytime you're asked to be part of something as big as a Hall of Fame, and you choose not to, whether it's an organizational Hall of Fame, a club Hall of Fame, a school Hall of Fame, or a pro Hall of Fame, you know, it's an honor, and that's the way you should look at it.
Who invited you? You mentioned that you looked up to them.
I was invited by George the Animal Steele.
Wow.
Who was my arch nemesis for a number of years in the WWF.
Mm-hmm.
And it all came about when I was invited by the president of the Hall of Fame to George's induction, when he was inducted into the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
And it steamrolled from that point on. And after going to the ceremonies for a couple of years, we sat down and talked one Sunday afternoon up there after everything was over, and the president said, you know, we don't have anything going in New Jersey. Why don't you try and you know, throw a dinner or something? Because it's, you know, it's everything is done by donations, and the money that we raise, every penny that's raised goes towards the Hall of Fame, and you know, we can use every penny we get. So I decided, well, you know what, let me see if I can throw a dinner and make it work. And knock on wood, you know, I've had 2 dinners now, and, you know, we've raised thousands of dollars each dinner, and this September I'm working on my 3rd one. And it's, you know, all the guys that have, you know, come to the dinner, they're great. You know, it's not one of these deals where they come, stay for a couple hours, and leave. The dinner's, you know, doors open at 6:30. They're there from 6:30 until we close the doors at midnight.
Oh, wow.
You know, which is a testament to all the guys, so, and gals.
And gals.
So, oh yeah, we've had Dawn Marie's been there. She's trying to think of who else. We had Dawn Marie, Michelle Mupo was there. The first lady of wrestling,
Missy Hyatt.
Missy Hyatt.
You can't miss her. She'll.
No. She was there. She came a little late, but she was there.
Me.
But yeah, it's great, you know, and it's something that you know, it keeps the juices flowing, you know, especially when you can go up and you can see, you know, we love the sport.
Mm-hmm.
The wrestlers, you know, we love the sport. But the biggest kick we get, and I don't care whether you're a heel or whether you're a babyface, the biggest kick you get out of it is when you see the fan's face. Mm-hmm. You know, when they walk in to the hall, you know, first off, when they see you standing there, and they can come up to you and talk to you and shake your hand and get an autograph, and then they go in and they see all this hundreds of years of memorabilia, if you add it all up. Actually, it's probably thousands of years. It's phenomenal.
Wow.
You know, and it goes back. I mean, you know, years ago I had the good fortune to wrestle against Danny Hodge.
Yep.
And let me tell you that Danny Hodge can turn you into a human pretzel. Okay.
Yeah.
And yet, you know, when he was inducted 2 years ago, you know, I showed him. I actually brought some pictures of the match I had with him when we wrestled in Fort Smith, Arkansas. And he says, "Oh yeah, I remember that." And I said, "Well, that's when I almost stretched you, right, Danny?" And he broke out laughing, and like the people that were standing around me go, "Ooh, you really said that?" But he, you know, he could take a rib like that, you know. And because let me tell you, you're not going to stretch Danny Hodge. Even now, you're not going to stretch Danny Hodge. You know?
Let me ask you, this is kind of a running thing that we're hearing from recent guests on the show. We just had Sam Houston on, who ran into a little bit of hard luck a few years ago, but he left wrestling for a number of years, and he said he got invited to come down and do a show, and he went down and did a show just to make a speech and just say hi to the fans, and he stepped into the ring, and he said he hit the ropes, he looked at the crowd, and he said he didn't care, he was going to wrestle again. That was it. He was hooked again. It sounds like you're saying about the same thing.
Well, you know, it's funny because I retired in 1991. And the reason I retired is because I had broken my knee 5 times.
Oh, wow.
My right knee. The first time was with Greg Valentine with a figure 4 leg lock. And that just progressively, you know, 5 operations. And the doctor just said, that's it, you know. And, you know, I have a brace that, you know, I have to wear if I'm going to do any kind of exercise at all. So I went down this past summer, and, you know, once, you know, geez, you know, I really would like to get back in the ring again, you know, just one more time. You know, it's that you want to relive your youth again, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And not many people get that opportunity. Well, the opportunity was afforded to me, and I wound up, you know, to tell you a funny little story, I wound up getting the opportunity to get back in the ring. And I wound up winning. But I didn't know that it was a title match. So I pinned the guy in the middle of the ring, and the referee's handing me the belt, and I'm saying, I don't want that thing. You know, and he's saying, I don't want that thing. Give it back. And he says, no, you don't understand, Irish. You've won the heavyweight title. And he hands me the belt, and I just looked at him. I can't tell you exactly what I said, but it was more of shock than anything else. And you'll never guess the first thing that went through my mind.
What was that?
What am I going to tell my wife? because you know, I was going down there to shoot commercials for the Hall of Fame. No way was I going down there to wrestle. And I wound up having 8 matches, and it was 2 weeks. It was the time of my life. 2.5 weeks. The time of my life. You know, I got the opportunity to get back into the ring. I actually won a title and lost the title, but I had a ball.
Wow.
It was great. It was great.
Have you been in the ring since then?
No.
No. Would you get back in there again, or was that it?
Well, my wife's not here. Yes, I would.
There you go.
Yeah, I would like. You know, you know, if you're going to do a comparison, like now, I mean, again, you know, I'm 57 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I could not go in, even if I took 6 months to really get myself into good shape. I couldn't go against the young guys of today. You know, they're too fast. They're much stronger than we used to be. You know, it would not be fair. You know, I would be able to hold my own for a little while, but then, you know, the youth and strength would obviously, you know, take me over. And they're so fast, you know, which, you know, I give them all the world of credit. The only problem I have today is that everybody's a superstar.
Yep.
Whereas back when I was wrestling, you know, you were a wrestler, and then you wrestled against superstars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just don't understand how everybody can be a superstar. You know, and I think that down the road that's going to hurt the business some.
That I mean, they always said it takes a star to make a star.
Exactly. It does, but you know, you have to pay your dues, and can't pay your dues. I mean, if you talk to some of these guys like Davey O'Hannon or Johnny Rods or Killer Khan or Blackjack Mulligan or George the Animal Steele or Johnny Valentine, you know, you talk to any of them, they would tell you that, you know, when you were green in the business, when you first started in the business, you were lucky if the older guys talked to you. You know, you sat there, you listened, and you showed respect. When one of the veterans came over to talk to you, you know, that means that you were accepted. You know, and you listen to what they say. You, in other words, you had a foundation. You built the foundation first, then you put the floor, then you put the first floor up.
Exactly.
You know, now it's like, you know, they're moving into the condo all in one shot, and it's down the road. I mean, I just don't see, I don't see it benefiting the business, in longevity-wise as it has over the years for us.
I think it was, there's a lot of the guys who would say things like that they would be offered the opportunity to go up to work in New York, and they would been wrestling for 8-9 years. This is back in the old days, and they say, "Well, no, I'm not ready yet. I'm not."
True.
Yeah, and nowadays it's pretty much you come up through the WWE Farm League, and they bring you up onto TV, and you're almost always handled by the WWE to where you don't have the paying your dues involved in that.
Well, the thing is, why I'm, you know, again, I would never second guess Vince McMahon. I mean, he grew up in the business. He knows the business. He's brought the business to the height that it's at today.
Absolutely.
But I don't think that, again, in my opinion, you know, you can move somebody too fast. You know, and some of the risks that the guys take today, I mean, it's just, you know, it's unbelievable, some of the things that they do.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I just hope that, you know, years down the road, I mean, I'm fortunate, you know, with, you know, just injuring my knee, you know, down the road, you know, what kind of, you know, suffering are they going to do? You know, and that's what bothers me, because, you know, you talk about, you know, having arthritis and bursitis and stuff like that. Well, they're taking some big falls and some big hits, and they're doing some stunts that, you know, I mean, how many necks have been broken? You know, how many ribs have been broken? You know, that really didn't need to be, because the stunt was, you know, a little over the top. But again, like I said, I'm not going to second guess anybody. You know, the professionals, they know what they're doing, and if they don't think that the stunt, you know, they can do the stunt, you know, they should have common sense to say no. You know, but again, that's my opinion. Yes.
Well, I was just going to say, it's funny. Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned a lot of the young guys are getting pushed too fast, because it seems like a lot of those guys don't last very long. Like, they'll have their big run, and then they just kind of fade away.
Well, you know, again, that is a testament to professional wrestling, because professional wrestling is just that. It's professional wrestling. This is not, you know, everybody's, well, you know, this is fake and this is that. You know what? I don't know anybody that can get a fake slam. I don't know. I have never seen anything fake about a backdrop or a suplex. You're hitting.
Exactly.
You know, you're landing on, your body is actually hitting on a solid surface. Is there some give? Of course there's some give. There has to be. All right? But you're not landing on a mattress.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You're hitting a solid surface. And you notice that's being done on the floor, with padding, without padding. It's being done on tables. You know, and down the road, they're going to pay their dividends on those maneuvers.
Oh, I think so. I mean, I would love to know if Sabu lives to be an old man, what he'll be feeling when he gets there. Because, geez, I don't even know. I don't think he could deal with the pain.
I'm telling you, him and a guy that I admire, Mick Foley. I mean, he has taken some hellacious shots and some ridiculous falls, and got up and walked away from it. How it's amazing, and that's just a testament to the professional wrestler as an athlete.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned something that's been talked about a lot these days. Even on WWE TV, they're doing a lot with the legends, and they just had Piper come out last night, and he said a lot of what you just said. He says the reason he still goes out there and does autograph signings and walks out to the ring at other kinds of shows is because people still want to see him. People come up to him and say, I remember when you did this, I remember when you did that. And it's all based on the movie The Wrestler. Have you had an opportunity to see the movie yet?
No, I haven't seen the movie yet. Hopefully I'll be able to see it within the next couple of weeks. That's my plan anyway. But the thing is that when you, like we were talking about, some of these guys don't have long careers, but those that have had long careers, once you've gotten out of the limelight, it's always nice to be remembered, and that's the thing that keeps me going. When I have somebody come up to me and say, you look familiar, aren't you, or weren't you a wrestler, well, you used to be that Irish guy. Well, no, I'm still that Irish guy, but
that never goes away.
And it's amazing. I mean, and some of it is funny, and you can't make the stuff up. I had a lady, very nice lady, and she was an Irish lady.
Mm-hmm.
She came up to me. I was actually having dinner, and she had to be in her late 60s, early 70s. And she came up to me, and she says, excuse me, she says, aren't you that Irish wrestler? And I said, well, yes, I am. And she says, I used to watch you when I was a little girl. Could I have your autograph? Now, this lady had to be 14, 15 years older than me. But she was watching me when she was a little girl. And, I mean, I thought my wife was going to start crying. She was laughing so hard. She just thought that was the cutest thing. And that stuff happens. I mean, but it's wonderful to be remembered. I don't care, if you're off on the dates or not. It's wonderful to be remembered.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's the strangest thing when I actually once was talking to somebody. I actually have a customer service job, aside from what I do on the website, and I said, well, this is James Walsh, and they actually said back to me, the James Walsh, and I thought, I'm a the? But apparently they knew me from the show, and I was like, oh my God, somebody actually knows who I am. That's the strangest thing ever. But it happens.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, it made your day, though, didn't it?
Oh, yeah. That's a banner day right there.
It makes your day.
Absolutely.
Well, I got to share my story now. My grandfather is Tuffy Lehman's, and he's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And somebody, I worked at a hospital in a customer service job, and somebody, I don't remember if he recognized me or if he just remembered the name or what. And through conversation, he found out that I was Tuffy Lehman's grandson, and he asked for my autograph. And I was like, okay. I'm nobody special, but I'll take it.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. And the thing is, I was actively working in the business for just about 15 years. And then that 15 years, even up to this day, I have never turned down an autograph. Only because I was very proud of being a professional wrestler. And I got into the business because of I had two small children, and I wanted them to be proud of me, you know, and say, oh, my dad, you know, is a professional wrestler. And it's funny because, you know, I mean, I go to hospitals and I visit, you know, some sick kids and stuff because I was blessed with two very healthy kids. And every Christmas I'll go to a hospital. People used to bring me the Care Bears. Remember the Care Bears? Well, they used to bring the green one, the Good Luck Bear.
Ah, yeah.
And I had every size imaginable. And at one point, I had 5 big green garbage bags loaded with these Care Bears. And my wife says, well, what are you going to do with these bears? Why don't you take them, you know, to the Salvation Army or something? I said, no, I'm going to do something. I don't know what yet. But then I decided, you know, I'm going to the hospitals. I'm seeing these kids. I'm going to bring bears with me, and then I'll sign it across the emblem, and I give it to the child. And you know, I usually see, you know, the terminally ill children. Mm. And when I was out in Iowa, I would go to Iowa Hospital. We had a hookup there where we would get in to see the kids and everything. And, you know, I gave them some bears and everything. And I never got a bear back because most of the kids usually die, which is unfortunate. But the thing is that it was a way where it's not just a gift for the child, it was a gift for the child and for the parents because they're going to remember that day when a kid was happy and no one was thinking about illness, you know?
Yep.
And they're going to keep that bear forever. You know? Absolutely. So, you know, and now, of course, you know, I don't have that many green bears, but I still pick up a few bears now and then and around Christmas time, Christmas Day or something like that, I'll go in and I'll visit. And you just take a couple hours because now I have, you know, 5 healthy grandchildren.
Really?
So, you know, it's just, you know, that's my little way of saying thank you and giving a little bit back. But I can remember standing in the rain, you know, just, you know, signing autographs, getting soaking wet, you know, having to drive like 6 hours, you know, in soaking wet clothes just because I stood out signing autographs. And not minding it at all, where, you know, a couple of guys would give me a bunch of grief because they wanted to get going. But you know what? I mean, I enjoyed the fans, and, you know, they paid to see me. And if I can give them a little extra, make them, you know, think a little bit more of the sport and be a little bit, you know, prouder of themselves because they support professional wrestling, you know, me being a little damp for a couple hours is not going to hurt anything. No.
Very cool. I appreciate that very much, and that you gave back. And it seemed like a lot of the ones who showed up at the recent event up in Staten Island were the ones who do give back and did give back. And I was so happy and proud to sponsor and help in any way I could to get that event out there and promote that event. Now, how did that turn out this Saturday? Because we talked a lot about it on the show, so how did it go?
It was great. It was great. I don't think the fan outpour was as much as they hoped, but you know, it never is. Mm-hmm. You know, you always wish that 1 million people would show up, but there were a lot of people, and the hotel was a beautiful hotel. I mean, beautiful hotel, and they had you know, almost everybody that had signed on to be there was there. I actually had the privilege of sitting next to Nikolai Volkov.
Wow.
Which, yeah, and I'm going to tell you what, he is very, very nice guy and very, very funny.
Is he really?
Oh, he kept cracking me up.
See, that's the weirdest thing, because we did an interview with him about 4 years ago, and I've been told by a couple guys in the business since then that he was in character with me, and that's why it kind of was a dud. Yeah, it didn't really work, because everything I asked him, he kind of shot down, and it was like, ooh. But apparently, I've been told...
Hogan.
Yeah, I mean, he trashed Hogan, and this was like weeks before they were at the Hall of Fame together. And at the Hall of Fame, they were hugging on camera. It was like wow, he must have been in character, because he kind of got me. But there you go.
I would probably say, you know, he was, because when fans would come up to him, I mean, he does have a Russian accent.
Mm-hmm.
All right? But when the fans would come up to him, I noticed that his Russian accent got much thicker.
Ah.
You know? So, you know, he was still in his character, you know, with the people. But when we were sitting there, you know, in our little bitty breaks and everything, when, you know, the crowd would thin out by the time it got to us, it was, you know, it was funny. I mean, and he would say stuff just before, because the fans would come around and swing by the tables, and they would hit me first, and then his table right next to me. So just before the fans would get to me, he would say something to crack me up. So I'd be laughing when the fan got to me, you know. And you know, he was playing me just right, you know. But it was a very enjoyable day. The people that put it on did a first-class job. You know, they took very good care of us. The hotel took very good care of us, and the people were nice. You know, I mean, it's just, yeah, it was an enjoyable day.
Absolutely.
You know, all around. You know, which is what you look for when you go to something like that.
Exactly, and they did give back, and I won't mention any names or anything, because I don't want to embarrass the person if they're listening, but I know they gave back to a certain person and things like that, which is, again, why I was so proud to be part of it, because there's a lot of good people I want put on that one, so I was glad to. I don't usually promote these things. I was involved with loosely with the one that happened up in San Francisco, which was a giant disaster, and ever since then I've kind of sworn off of them, but this one I made an exception and tried my best to really hit home that people need to go to this one, because it's a good cause for certain people that were there and things like that. So there was a whole lot of good things happening at this thing.
Oh, extremely. I mean, it's you know, John Cena Sr. was there, and, you know, when you got the chance, you got up from your table and you walked around, you said hello to everybody, you shook hands, you know, and you know, fans would ask you, hey, can I get a picture of you and Miss? You know, when you ask us to do, that's why we're there. And when you ask us for an autograph, or you ask us to pose for a picture, you know, that's why we're there. You know, and that's the only reason we're there, is for you, for the fans. That's how the old-time wrestling used to be. And I'm so proud to still be part of it, where, you know, the old-timers and the old ways are still alive. You know, and that's one of the reasons why I even got back in the ring down in Tennessee last July, because that's old-time wrestling. You know, there's no fireworks and explosions and everything else. This is old-time, old-fashioned, get in the ring, good versus evil wrestling.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's one of the areas that you got to keep an eye on, the SPWA.
Absolutely.
I'm telling you, it's going to be bringing enjoyment back to wrestling again.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool. Now, who's running that? They said Outlaw Don Bass is running that?
Yeah, Outlaw Don Bass and Big Hoss Williams.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
You know, and let me tell you what, that should be big team of horses, Williams. That is one of the biggest individuals I've ever had. I don't know if I should say displeasure, but oh my God, that is a big man. You know, I mean, he looks like a Volkswagen without wheels. Holy Moses, what a monster.
Now, I did want to ask you, there was recently a situation with a modern wrestler. You probably know him, Chris Jericho.
Yes.
There was an incident where the fans up in Canada, he was at a stoplight, and a mob of fans approached his car, jumped on his windshield and things, and one of them made the mistake of putting their hands on him, and he subsequently beat the crap out of them. But apparently, I wanted to get your opinion on this. As I wrote an article on our website basically saying, look, if there were cell phone cameras around back in the old days, there'd be a lot more videos on YouTube of guys with defending themselves and things like that every time somebody asked him if wrestling was fake or not. Now, you probably have heard a little bit about what happened with Jericho, but
this is actually the first I've heard about it.
Really, yeah. So, I mean, it actually got mentioned on Fox News, which was surprising. But yeah, apparently, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned being approached by fans and things like that. Did you ever have anybody approach you that was maybe not a fan of yours.
Oh, sure.
How do you handle that?
Well, the thing is that, you know, as long as you don't touch me, you know, I have no problem with it. You know, you have a right to say whatever you want. You know, it's your opinion. You know, you pay your money to get in, to see the matches, and you know, this is still America. You know, you have freedom of speech. You can say whatever you want as long as you don't assault me or attempt to assault me. I have no problem with that. You know, I defend the freedom of speech. You know, if the fan put their hand on Chris, though, and like I said, I know of Chris, I don't know him personally.
Right.
But from what I've understood, you know, Chris is a gentleman.
Right.
Right.
You know, but I mean, if you're jumping on his car and you're putting your hands on him and stuff like that, that's an assault. You know, I mean, you know, you're reaching into his car, you're invading his space.
Exactly.
You know, you're trespassing and everything else. You know, I mean, my immediate thought at that point would be, you know, hey, you know, I need to get out of here.
Right.
You know, where, you know, he took it to a different level.
He was screaming for security, and when there was no security, the fan, what it was the guy who was approaching him kept screaming in his face during an insult to Canada, which he was obviously getting more and more ticked about because there was no security around to help him. And then the fan made the mistake of shoving him. He didn't hit him hard. He hit him on the shoulder. And Jericho basically just dropped him with a punch. Then the guy's wife spat at Jericho, and Jericho decked her too. But
well, the thing is, though, okay, I mean, obviously, most of the fans were wrong.
Yep.
All right, you cannot, I don't care if it's a love tap, you cannot put your hands on anybody. All right, now, in my thought is that, and, you know, I was brought up a strict Irish Catholic. You know, you don't hit women.
Hey, exactly, me too.
Unless they hit you first. Okay? I mean, and I say that, you know, partly in jest, but partly in all sincerity. If I have a woman that I don't know that comes up and takes a swing at me, I'm going to try to defend myself. I'm not going to try and knock her out, but I'm going to defend myself. But the thing is that what she did was terroristically, a terroristic assault by spitting at him. She can actually get in more trouble than the husband can for pushing Jericho in the first place.
Right. Exactly.
You know, because transfluent bodily fluids, I mean, you know, with all the diseases and everything out there today, you don't know.
Exactly.
You know? So, I mean, she can actually be in a lot more trouble than the boyfriend or the husband.
Right.
You know?
Yep. Now, you mentioned Nikolai, and I wanted to get to Nikolai because we had a funny story I told you about Sam Houston pulling a trick on Nikolai recently, and, well, not recently, this was old school, but he told us about it recently. I wanted to ask you about any of the funniest and best rib stories you've seen, because obviously you were around with some of the most colorful characters, you being one of them yourself, that wrestling has ever seen, the biggest and brightest, and obviously Andre the Giant and the works. I mean, do you have any funny rib stories that you could share with us?
Well, I remember, talk about Andre, I remember one night in Sayreville, New Jersey. We were wrestling at a high school, and Andre was playing cribbage with Arnold Skolin. And the midgets were on the program also, and Skylo Lowe, who was from Canada, was actually sitting on Andre's knee. He actually looked like a ventriloquist puppet. And I don't know what happened, but they were always arguing. Skylo and you know, most of it was you know, all fun.
Right.
And they were constantly teasing one another. Well, Skylo went out, had his match, came back, and was gone into the shower. While he was in the shower, Andre, who, if people don't remember, was 7'5". All right. Now the benches in the locker room, they're only about 20 inches, 22 inches off the floor. So let's say, for argument's sake, 2 feet.
Right.
Well, okay. So you've got 2 feet of bench from the floor. Then you've got 7.5 feet of Andre. Now let's add his reach, which now brings you up to what? Almost 12 feet, 13 feet?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, well, he was touching the roof. He took the midget's clothes. Now, Skylar Lowe was very dapper. He always wore a sports jacket, you know, and collared shirt and slacks and almost, you know, and when he took it off, it all went on a little hanger, you know, and he hung it up in the locker. Well, Andre took this stuff and he hung it up on the light up in the ceiling. Now, not the fluorescent light, the halogen lights that come directly out of the ceiling.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay?
Oh, no.
So anyway, the you know, Skylar goes out and his towel is gone. So right away he goes after Andre. He says, "I know you took my towel. You better give me my towel back." And everybody's laughing. So Andre just says, "Go get dressed." So he goes, and then I took French for a year, but I didn't understand a word that he said, but I know it was bad. He came back, "Oh, are you ready?" It sounded like a foreign legion was coming down the hall. And Andre goes, "What are you talking? Your clothes are hanging up." He goes, "Where?" And Andre pointed. He says, "Up there." Well, the midget looked up and he almost fell on his can. He went, then he just walked away and he was cursing. It was hysterical. Next thing, now, I mean, first off, to see this little bald-headed bear midget walking down a hall, walking down the locker room, you know, swearing. So, all right, fine and dandy. A couple of minutes later, he comes walking back, again, totally naked, and I don't know if you're going to be able to say this on the radio.
Go for it.
but he had Andre's cowboy boot in front of him, telling him that it was going to get wet inside his boot. Andre upset the table, the cribbage, everything, all over the place. And the midget took off with the boot. And Andre was chasing him through the locker room. It was the funniest thing. I'm telling you, I laughed so hard, my ribs were killing me. And Andre couldn't catch him. You know, and the midget, and he's stuck in, and he's going in, and he's dragging the boot and everything up. And he says, good, it's making me go more. And I'm telling you, it was hysterical. Of course, he didn't go at all, but it was, the funniest thing I've ever seen. You know, and Andre told him, he says, "I'm going to put you on a hanger and put you up on the light."
Oh.
You know, it was funny. You know, I mean, I'm 6'2", all right, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know if I stood on a 6-foot ladder if I could have reached to get the clothes down. You know, I really don't, because I mean this thing is up there, and he's got little clothes. It looked like little doll's clothes hanging up there. You know, I mean, oh, it was so funny. You know, I've never seen Arnold Skolin laugh so hard in my life.
Uh-huh.
You know, it was hysterical.
Were you close with Arnold Skolin?
Yeah, actually, Arnold Skolin bounced me on his knee when I was about 6 years old.
Oh, wow.
He and my father. My father was a bartender in New York, and after the matches, a bunch of the wrestlers used to go into the bar that my dad was in working, and he brought me to one of the matches at Sunnyside Gardens in Queens, Sunnyside, Queens.
Mm-hmm.
And we sat and talked with Arnold one night, and Arnold actually helped me. Well, Gorilla Monsoon recruited me, and Arnold was the one that gave me my first shot in New Jersey when I came back after training.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to this is usually one of our last questions, so I'll ask you this, and then Patrick, if he has something that he'd like to wrap up with, I'll let him do it. This has to do with the media and wrestling, and obviously it's a little bit better now with The Wrestler, the movie, getting so popular and getting critical acclaim, but for a while there, a few years ago, it was pretty hard to go out and call yourself a wrestling fan, because one week you had the media ganging up on Hulk Hogan because of what his son made a mistake and did, and the next week you had the Benoit thing, and I've actually wanted to ask you, you being a little bit out of it, but a little bit out of it now than you were, sitting back and looking at things like the media, CNN, Nancy Grace, and Bill O'Reilly, and them making their generalizations about wrestling after the Chris Benoit thing, saying, oh, he was a sociopath, it's the steroids, and they're all crazy, and all that kind of stuff that they came out with. How did you take the way that wrestling was treated in that time period?
Well, I was there when David Schultz slapped the crap out of John Stossel at the Garden.
Yep.
We boxed both his ears, which really wasn't that hard, but, it got Stossel's attention.
I was told he was told to do that, too.
No, because John Stossel, he's that type of reporter. He asks the hard questions, but, it's a little annoying when somebody comes up to you and says, well, listen, I know what you're doing is fake, but, in that case, he had just lost a very, very rough match.
Mm-hmm.
He was physically, sore, bruised, and it was a very tough physical match. And then to have some guy come up and clown it on you, I'm surprised he didn't deck him, rather than just cuff him on both ears. But, people who, you're always going to have people out there that are in the media that are going to, look for the worst of the worst of the worst and then throw everybody into that pot. Pro wrestling is no different than pro football, pro baseball, pro basketball, pro hockey, pro swimming, the Olympics. You're always going to have somebody that, does something either stupid or does something illegal and gets caught, and then, all of a sudden for the next couple of weeks, they're the worst person in the world. But that may be so. My thing is, don't criticize the whole sport. Don't criticize the whole game just because you have an individual. Benoit, he took steroids. Well, you know what? I personally don't think that steroids were Benoit's only problem.
No.
Okay, I believe that, he had other problems other than just steroids.
One of the wrestlers we interviewed shortly after it, and he was one of them that was obviously taking something because he just can't be as big as he was. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, anybody ever think about the concept that maybe he was just freaking nuts? There you go. I thought that was a pretty good answer.
He was going, from what, and I didn't know Chris Benoit other than just to say hello, but, obviously his marriage, he was having problems with his marriage, he had a beautiful little kid, who had a disability, and, I don't know why God does that to children, but you know what, he's a higher source than me, I'm sure, one day he'll give me the answers. But the thing is that, you can't judge, well, that guy, he was a bad person, he was a bad wrestler, he took drugs, he took this, he did that, and wrestling should be banned. Whoa. That right then and there is when it should be cut off.
Right.
One of my first cars was a Ford station wagon. I only had it 28 days. And out of the 28 days, it only ran 7. Does that mean that all Fords should be taken off the road? Because Fords are no good?
No.
That's basically exactly what they're saying about, wrestling. With baseball, the same thing they had with the steroids.
Yeah, they had the big show in front of Congress.
Yeah, the way I look at it, you know what? If they were taking it before it became illegal, then that should be the end of the story. All right?
Absolutely.
If you were taking the drug or the steroid before it became illegal, then it should play nothing at this point. Now, if you're taking steroids, you now know they're illegal, and you get caught. Well, you know what? Then you deserve to get whatever punishment they deem necessary. But before, it doesn't matter. You know, should there be an asterisk next to their name? No, there shouldn't be, because there should be no question. You know, it had no play legally in anything you were doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if that sounds a little hard, and and I am totally against drugs.
Mm-hmm.
But my point is that I can remember running a stop sign when I was 17. That means, okay, it wasn't really a legitimate stop sign. It's just everybody stopped at this corner, but now there's a stop sign up. Should I get a ticket for that 40 years later? You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense.
Absolutely.
It just doesn't make sense.
All right, so where can fans find out some more information on Irish Terry Gunn?
Well, I answer all my own email, and anybody that wants can email me at irishterrygunn@hotmail.com. I'm going to be having a MySpace put up pretty soon, or they can get me on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Or they can contact me through the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame at pwhf.org.
Absolutely. Well, I got to tell you, it's really been a treat having you on the show.
Oh, it's been fun talking with you guys.
And, Pat, did you want to say anything?
No, I just want to say thank you very much for your time, and I think I speak for James and myself when I say we had a lot of fun listening to what you had to say.
Well, I appreciate it, guys, and, feel free to give me a holler anytime.